Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Chuck Scharnagel with TribalWise, and I want to welcome you to today's webinar with our partner, ServiceNow. Their webinar is Enabling Tribal Nation Economic Growth with Improved Data Visibility and Management. We appreciate everybody joining us today. Again, special thanks to ServiceNow. Our presenters today are Ryan, Calvin, and Mark, and I'll let them introduce themselves in just a second. Just a reminder that this webinar will be recorded today for unlimited future viewing. You can see it on tribalwise.com. If you can't stay for the whole webinar today, you can go back and view whatever you need later on. Or if you feel it was really worth your time and you have somebody that would benefit from taking a view of it, please let them know it's available again at tribalwise.com. Throughout the presentation today, our presenters would love to get hit with some questions, so feel free to go to the chat box, send your questions at any time. We'll either answer them throughout the presentation or at the end. So again, go to the chat box and hit us with all the questions that you may have. Again, we're very glad that you're here. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan. Ryan, take it away.
Thank you, Chuck. And let me go ahead and share my screen here. Just get that squared away. Sharing now. Can you confirm that I'm sharing the right screen up here?
Yes, it looks great.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks again, Chuck, for the warm introduction. We're glad to be here with everybody on the line today. Appreciate you joining us here to discuss the topic of enabling economic growth with improved data visibility and process automation. We've got a lot of jam-packed material for you guys today, so excited to be here and look forward to presenting. Just a quick introduction here of the team on the line of presenters. You've got myself. My name is Ryan Nunes. I am the account manager here at ServiceNow, who supports the relationships between ServiceNow and all the tribal nations and the tribal enterprises. I've also got Calvin Gerald Corman, who's our senior solutions consultant at ServiceNow, supporting the tribal nations as well, and Mark Wolgamuth, who is our IT transformation lead at ServiceNow as well. So this is your team here on the line who will be presenting today. Just to go through a quick agenda, what we want to do here is we're going to be discussing the current challenges that business and government face today, an overview on how you can successfully digitize the way your organization operates, talk about how you can gain full visibility into your investments to maximize resources for continuous improvement. And then we'll go ahead and open it up for some Q&A at the end here. We'll also take a peek under the hood as well and look inside the ServiceNow instance and how this investment resources might be leveraged. So as we all know, the 2020 pandemic brought massive change to the business world. And in response, organizations have really accelerated the need to digitize in order to operate in this new environment that we're in, with faster digitized processes, pivoting their processes and service models in order to ensure the continuous and consumer grade service that citizens, customers, and employees expect. Unfortunately, gone are the days where walking up to someone's desk is sufficient to get work done. So what we need to do is create great experiences for our employees and our citizens and our customers that foster collaborative work in a remote environment. The challenge is too many solutions have failed to solve the problems of supporting today's organizations on a massive scale with the complexity of each organization, especially within the tribal nations. A recent study by IDC actually found that organizations across the board have invested over $3 trillion on digital transformation initiatives over the last 3 years. And only 26% of them reported achieving a return on that investment. When you look at it, it's because when you adopt a mix of best of breed solutions on different platforms, this results in multiple different engagement layers that fail to connect the people, data, and processes on the same level. So these point solutions only add incremental value and don't drive increased productivity or strengthen the business resilience necessary to the levels that organizations hope to achieve. Taking this kind of fragmented approach rarely enables the multiplier effect on service value that digital transformation investments can create when done successfully. And this is because the way that people work inside organizations today can be very complex and manual. I wanted to bring up an example here that doesn't totally relate, but I think most folks on the line can resonate with here. You're at the DMV, and it's a process we've all been through before. And let's say their driver registration system experiences an outage that impacts their field offices during business hours. DMV customer service agents are frantically opening tickets internally, while the field office managers are trying to calm the frustrated citizens in the lobby. The IT service desk is flooded with emails and calls about the issue, and an internal IT team is assessing the damage. The security team is assessing the risk, and DMV leadership team needs to know what to tell customers about the outage and when and if it's going to be resolved, what the root cause was. You might even have frustrated citizens calling elected officials. The problem is no one has any visibility to remediate this outage, and there's no communication plan. As a result, the DMV employees and citizens experience a frustrating day of delivering a service. So why is this such a challenge for this DMV example, for the customers and for the department employees? A complete lack of visibility for the business and customers as to where they are in the process of resolving the issue. No status or notifications or expectations as to how long the process might take. And with disconnected systems and departments, data and process silos often result in a lot of manual interactions and data entry. All of this translates into employees spending too much time on low-value tasks that don't address the customer issue in the moment and frequently result in the team running in different directions, frantically trying to figure things out. So what's the answer for this? Reduce the number of touch points needed to improve the experience by creating seamless cross-departmental workflows and collaboration, which requires, of course, an integration between the systems of record that you already have in place today. This, in turn, helps to deliver a better experience and speeds resolution for everyone. When we look at it, the citizen really doesn't, they want their problem to be resolved as quickly as possible. They don't care what technology is used to get the job done. They just want their issue addressed. The employees, on the other hand, they want a better work environment and to leverage new technology that's going to make their lives easier. So how can ServiceNow help the DMV better respond to situations such as this one with an outage? When an unexpected disruption occurs, we could have IT operations team could instantly catch it, understand where the root cause was. This workflow could notify not only just the field office team, so they're informed and can let their customers know, but also leadership and security. So from here, all teams can get to work and get the job done to remediate. IT can find and address the issue, while the office staff can notify the affected customers as to what's going on and what the resolution time might be. So this single unified platform helps to keep everybody on the same page, giving everyone the visibility across the process. So I know that I just mentioned a DMV example, but what does this exactly mean for tribal nations? Tribal nations, with your dynamic operating structure, need a platform that can scale. It needs to be able to connect the entire enterprise with digital workflows, needs to deliver modern consumer-like user experiences as we would expect at home with Amazon, across government, healthcare, and casino employees and customers. It also needs to easily integrate with your existing technology stack and provide an avenue for continuous improvement and delivery of services to save time and cost. So what should this platform look like? Start with great experiences, right? Great experiences are a given. This is what customers and employees look for and they expect. So we need to be able to meet them wherever they are, whether this be on their mobile phone or tablet, on their browser, or even integrating with their with conversational tools such as Microsoft Teams or Slack. This platform also needs capabilities like easy to configure workflows, a way to track assets, software and hardware assets, knowledge bases, service catalogs, portals, place for people to go to get information and track all things necessary to get work done. And of course, we recognize that we also need to have some cross-departmental collaboration. There are times when multiple different organizations take part in an issue to resolve. So we need to provide that personalized experience across the board. And then again, here are just some common systems of record that we see. You may be familiar with some of these. So by connecting at the bottom here, your back office systems with your front office collaboration tools and providing that engagement layer platform, we're able to quickly deliver personalized services at scale across the entire enterprise. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to Mark for him to take it from here. Mark.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that. Yeah, so looking at the platform, I mean, one way to look at this is like a foundation. So you can kind of see it in the slide here as a house or a very large building. So the Now platform is kind of that foundation. So you build around it. And what that enables tribal nations to do is to tackle some of the initiatives, imperatives that you're faced with. So delivering better citizen experiences, enhancing the workforce productivity, as Ryan mentioned with the DMV, streamlined IT and business processes across the entire enterprise, and of course, ensuring security and minimizing risk across the entire IT organization, and then bringing in the gaming enterprise operations. So streamline that to be able to better deliver more funds back to the citizens. And so when you're tackling these initiatives, this platform is able to free up more time, money, and resources, and giving you the ability to deliver on different missions, new missions, future projects, and delivering better services back to the citizens. So if we look at the next slide, it's really what we believe is the way we help deliver that value on investments, consolidating all the investments on this one platform, ensuring that the work is aligned with outcomes that are needed for the citizens, and then of course maximizing value for the teams that are delivering the programs and projects. So we want to leverage again the platform. You'll gain visibility, so real-time visibility into cost, resource utilization, future funding needs, and given that alignment with the business goals and strategies there at the top. The idea is to speed things up so you can actually deliver more to the citizens and not be working in silos, have it all built on one platform. And of course, you're using definitely planning and building and other tools in the ecosystem, but when you consolidate on this platform, you have it connected to the run side of the business as you see on the right side. So what we're able to do is to deliver those digitized processes and gain end-to-end visibility. It's a unified platform that enables better collaboration across the different teams, innovation, and compliance. So if you look kind of at the left there, you have requests coming in, maybe from member services or health services or gaming enterprises, and pulling it into an idea. So that idea really is maybe a suggestion box that comes in. You have all these different areas that are pulling into one platform that create demands and things that may be needed to be created or fixed or future ideas. And you want to align that to the strategy and goals of the nation. And then estimating those demands and then eventually pushing it into a portfolio and optimizing that portfolio in line with all the constraints and priorities that might be in your way. And then, from that point, you basically put in, a program project, or maybe it's just an enhancement to a service that's available today. And then you're changing that and of course delivering it, and that leads to running the business. So, the key takeaway here really is connecting, the plan side of the house with the build and run side of the house. So with that one common platform, data model, workflow, and service framework with the ServiceNow platform, you can pull all this together by bringing in ideas all the way to delivery and running the business. I think now we wanted to maybe hand it over to Calvin to run through the actual solution itself and show you
Yeah.
how it actually looks.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop share here, Calvin, and I'll let you pull up your screen.
Okay. All right. And thanks, Mark. Thanks, Ryan. I forgot my teammate's name. And first, before we get into the demo, we just want to thank everyone for being here. It's an honor to be here with the Tribal Nation audience. As Mark, Ryan, and I work with different tribal nations as we work within ServiceNow to help you align your mission to technology investments. It's a real honor to be here. So if you have any questions while we're going through this, feel free to just put them in the chat. I'll stop us as we go. My part won't be that long, but we'll just dive right into it. So for today's webinar, we're just going to dive into right now what's going on across the nation, along with our government and defense clients, as well as our tribal nation clients. What we're finding as a result of the pandemic, as a result of quasi workforce on-prem, and how we're leveraging technology to extend services to our constituents, and in this case, in the tribal members, we need adaptability in order to pivot in funding. So for today's webinar, we're just going to go through a brief scenario that we've been seeing, not only with our tribal customers, but as we span across the government and our federal civilian defense portfolios, as well as in our intel portfolios, because the pandemic, believe it or not, and we've been hearing this, these are trying times. We've all had to pivot to extend capabilities externally to our constituents to drive costs for the business. But what's interesting about our tribal customers is that with that actualized revenue, they put it back in the hands of their tribal members as well as their internal employees. So today we're just going to run through how you can quickly manage your capital and federal investments, even your tribal investments, and align them to programs to drive the business. So today, as you see before you, we're logged into the ServiceNow platform. We developed this prototype for today's webinar. And if you have any questions on that, we'll gladly give that to you. So we'll just jump right in. So right now, the CIO, she's the director of finance, Christine Fairchild, she works for the tribal nation. And so she wants to see how well we're doing with our key performance indicators around our executive strategies. And so what she wants to do today, she wants to look at the roadmap of planned work aligned to each of the strategies that you see listed here, which we'll get into, and adjust the funding for Q4, because right now we're moving from Q2, we're moving into Q3 and 4. And we want to see, as we onboard our services, such as COVID relief programs, food programs, housing programs, and even internally, how can we bridge that gap to allocate funding? And how can we efficiently and effectively, introduce new programs innovatively to our external members in a fast scale? So as you see before you, Christine, she's checking on the performance of the organization. And from this investment dashboard, she can see several strategies of the organization. Now, what you see here is you see the different strategies lumped. So delighting the customers, improving the bottom line, and employee experience. And in our research, we found that these are the main buckets of strategies that most organizations are moving towards in today's environment, as we kind of pivot and see how we can streamline and scale services. Right now, you can see through integration to different funding sources, no matter what you have, we integrate with those, as you see here. And Christine is able to see that she has around 30 million for her delighting the customer strategy, improving the bottom line, 45 million. Now, what you see here at the bottom, employee experience is red, and that's only because there is no funding allocated to this, because due to what's going on, funding was pivoted to address the top two main initiatives. But since these two last initiatives address the employee experience as well as the tribal constituent experience, bridging that internal external capabilities, we have these in her strategy goal. Now, the good thing about this is, from an overall view, you have your strategies, the funding that you have already at your fingertips, And this is real-time data, so you can drop into this. But before we go in and expand this, Christine can also see from these 3 strategies how we went ahead and we built out the funding and the plan costs based on the projects and the strategic goals that align here. So as we mentioned earlier, the employee experience, we don't have anything funded yet, but we know on half from those 2 initiatives that she can expect to fund 20 million towards those out of the allocated funding for this session. Do we have any questions here, or does anybody experience this now? You don't have to answer this in the chat, but if you want to, or if you can come off mute, if you have any funding capabilities and how are you addressing that, that'd be good for this conversation as well. Or did I make sense to everybody? And if not, we could just continue on. So as we see here, Christine, she already has her 30 million allocated. And from this, she now can look at each individual initiative to see how it scales up into the 30 million. So what we did here is we put, I put in the Q1 numbers for funding the enterprise strategies and delighting the customers for around 22 million. And then you can see I planned out another additional 30 million to bring it out for the rest of the quarter. From down here, you see the overall funding that has been allocated, the overall score of importances towards the mission, and then any changes so there was a 30% change overall from how we funded this earlier to how it's going into Q2. And now on average, Christine can report back not only to her external constituents, but internally, hey, on average, we're funding around 27 million for this. And then our median cost around funding should be around 30 million. So she has that granular real-time actualization of funding if she needs to pivot. And there's no longer the waiting game of coming up with this money. It's real-time right here for her fingertips. And now that she's looked at the funding alignment, so she knows that on hand, she's going to allocate 20 million to this, we can go into the alignment workspace, where it gives you a further granular view of all the projects that's listed by strategy. And why this is important, as Ryan, Mark, and I, we meet with clients like the customers such as Seminole Tribe of Florida and Chickasaw, who we're working with now. Right now, they've actualized hey, we have these internal infrastructure IT projects that we have, and they're funded, but now we want to start looking externally. How can we actualize which programs we can streamline and put on platform immediately to address the needs of what's going on in today's environment? So what this project by strategy does, as Mark and Ryan alluded to earlier, you have this one platform that brings in all of your data points from strategic investments, which you see highlighted here in these 3 buckets, delighting the customers, growing the business, and improving the bottom line. Although they are bucketed differently, they all use funding that will increase the overall constituent and tribal member satisfaction. Because even though you're doing internal projects, these projects scale over to your external infrastructure and help you drive the business. So as we see here, they're color-coded by different initiatives. And also Christine has that view from Q1 all the way into Q3, So she have that full view throughout the remainder of the year. And as you see listed here at this red line, we're currently in June, so she knows where we're at in terms of funding. And if she wants to go deeper and see any details, as we clicked on here, she can see the approval start date, the status is overall green, and we know the portfolio is listed in the Tribal Nation Program and Services. And the overall strategy is delighting the customer. So from the executive strategy dashboard, from the funding alignment, and now from the alignment mapping, what Christine also has the ability to do is now she sees all of her investments by business strategy. So as we mentioned earlier, Christine knows that her top initiative now is going back into these latitude that's going to increase Tribal Nation employee and tribal member engagement, and then improve tribal member experience score by 2% in the next fiscal year. So as we go into our investment details, we see that she received 300 million in funds. We already have 245 million of that allocated. And now we see that there's 55 million allocated. And around that, we have 44.7 in actuals listed. So what that is to give tribal members as well as our customers a deep dive view into real-time funding. And as they go through and they allocate their CapEx and OpEx, they can plan out from Q1 all the way through Q4, and they have that real-time visibility here. And the good thing about this is we've integrated this with other funding sources. So if there's approvals and workflows that comes along with increased funding, you can actualize that process right here in the tool. Ryan, Mark, do you have any input here? Like, what have you seen, Mark, around some other customers as it comes to investment funding, or is this kind of on par what you've seen?
No, I think it's a great question. That it's always changing, right? So the ability of the platform to be able to shift and move, and resources, funding, anything, that's the beauty of the platform, and that obviously is ever changing, right? Budget and funding
Exactly.
is always moving target.
Right.
So things change, right? So it's quarter to quarter, month to month, whatever it might be. But yeah, that's what I see a lot, and people are totally engaged in the system and able to make those changes as needed.
Exactly. And as we just saw, I believe Biden made, I think it was 22.2 million. There was an award to DOI within, I think, Bureau of Land Management. I know Fisher, the Land and Water Conservation Fund, is managed through Bureau of Land Management. And the good thing about Department of Interior, which we're also engaged, a lot of that funding is moved back over to the tribal nation, because some of those agencies like BLM, Fish and Wildlife Services, they handle some of that tribal trust, right? So it's only good that your allocation that's coming from these other funding sources, how it impacts your direct funding sources from other areas, and how you can integrate those two to drive initiatives for your business. And what do we mean by that? Right now, Christine has this flat view. She can see the enterprise strategy and the granular strategies that's listed here. But if she wants an overall view of how this trickle up, she just goes into the tree. And a good thing about a tree, just like it's rendered in ServiceNow, the tree bears fruit. So, from the root of the tree, she has all of her business, all of her investments aligned by business strategy. And now this tree is bearing fruit, right? So now she's growing a business with 164 million funds received. And now she's doing unmatched customer service because we want to scale there. Because of these times we're in, customers aren't able to engage with us like how they used to. So we need to modernize some of our services, not only to increase better customer satisfaction, but the way we touch our customers and our constituents has changed. So we're moving into that hybrid IT on-prem kind of, engagement with our customers. And so we want to make sure we still have that high touch, proactive customer and constituent engagement, not only as you had before, but since time are changing, you just want to add that average touch so you can always be in contact with your customers and align them to say, hey, this is what you should expect coming forward, that we should introduce as services in Q4. And hey, this hasn't been funding, but this is the reason why. You no longer have to, there's transparency from the constituent view all the way to the CIO view, and that's listed here in the tool. So not only do you have that flat details view that shows you granular, you also have the allocated view as well. And it's real intuitive. So if Christine wants to add any funding, she can do that as well here. So if she just clicks add, and if there's a new initiative that she wants to add, she would just go here and go into her enterprise strategy. And if she wants to add and another one, improving the bottom line, she can also add the selected there. Now, once she confirmed that, you will see the new strategy, employee experience. And the good thing about that is you also see the totals. My mouse is acting up on me, so bear with me. You also see the totals, and it also gives Christine an idea of what she has left to allocate in new funding, because at the bottom, since we have that real robust in-time data, now she see that she has 25 million left over here and 30 million left over here in Q4 for any CapEx and OpEx that she wants to put towards any of these initiatives. Ryan, Mark, anybody on the line, does that look good? Or do we have any questions here or?
That looks great to me. Quick time check. I know we're at with the half-hour mark. Was there any questions that anybody had on the line?
Are there any in the chat? Let me see.
We do have a comment in the chat. They believe that Noel believes that this could help tribal governments when there's a majority turnover in the government, with enabling the new council members to have fast and easy access to everything they need to know. I don't know if you guys want to touch on that and where that may feed in.
Exactly. And no, that feeds it. It's not reflected here, but I should add that in as a piece. So no, you bring up a good point. And that's what we've been doing with our other clients here. And it's not that hard to add that piece in because it's already there, right? So, and we just had an administration change that everybody on the phone call knows. So, you know, from one administration to the next, the allocation and funding change based on the strategies of the previous administration. So party agnostic, you know, Ryan, I, and Mark, we deal with the same CIOs, DCIOs, or whatever political appointee is in these agencies at the time. And what ITBM does, if we go back here, so if we go back to the executive strategy dashboard, what we see now with the new administration as we meet with our customers, if I just go to the investment. So right here in Grow the Business, we can also look at the past funding details and it'll give you the funds received versus actuals. So now if there was an administration change, like we did this at HHS OIG and then within the Indian Health Services part of HHS. So we wanted to know on average, hey, with this administration to the new, how has funding been allocated for different strategic initiatives that address IT infrastructure for our constituents? So we were able to drill down into this view by going into the past funding details versus what was allocated here. So you're no longer having to do those manual deltas. It's done in the tool automatically for you. And we can apply this use case to you as well, Mo. Were there any other questions?
Not at this time.
Okay. So my part was simple. And if there's any other questions, we could go into this, but basically right now, if Christine wanted to go in and add additional funding. And Ryan, keep me honest about the zeros in a million. All right, so that's 20 million. And if she wants to fund that, and if she funds the selected, we see that it was successfully added to FYQ4. She already has this planned out. And then and if we go in further, we now see that out of that, she now has 5 million left over from that. So with this, she can fund other initiatives for her external constituents, or she can fund a GAP program, which we see a lot of tribal nations are interested in, funding services that not only benefit their external constituents, but their internal constituents, because a lot of tribal members work for the tribe in different areas of judicial, government, and IT. So how can we do bridge programs that will not only increase our external, but internal kind of constituent satisfaction? So she's able to do that as well. So we just walk through looking at your strategy, the funding alignment to your strategy, the alignment workspace, how you can align this, and you can move this and see your different impacts on funding. And then we looked at the broader investment details, not only from the granular view of one investment, but also how these investments feed into each other. So Ryan, Mark, I'm completed on my part. I thought I thought this was gonna go longer, but
No, no worries.
money is short and sweet. So if there's not any questions, we could go through.
Calvin, I can throw you a couple more questions that have come in.
Okay.
So can you talk about the typical install and to get to this point, the time and cost involved? Is it typical where it's the same amount, or is each tribe going to face different challenges and costs depending on the price or depending on the complexity of what they're trying to do?
Yeah.
I can take that one. So this is the thing about ServiceNow. We wanted to keep this tailored towards sort of investment funding and how to manage projects on an agile scale. But in terms of the actual implementation sort of timeline, it all depends on the level of effort, what we're trying to achieve across the platform, as it extends not only internal to IT, but external to the customer and citizen engagement piece, and then in the HR as well. But if I can share my screen here again real quick, let's see. I mean, take for example, you've got the city of Los Angeles, for instance. At the height of the pandemic, the city of LA needed to quickly develop and deploy an app to do drive-through testing for their 16 million citizens. This needs to do everything from scheduling appointments, verify symptoms, identify the best drive-through testing locations, and they had to scale this. This is something that was, between the city of LA, with the help of ServiceNow, was able to go from design to production within 48 hours. So that's not to say that everything that will be delivered within the ServiceNow platform will take only 48 hours, but just to give you the idea that since everything is configured already in the platform and it's low and no code, that there's a lot that can be done in a short amount of time with a high impact.
Okay, that's great. Ryan, to take it a step further, what kind of configurability is available with your product? I mean, you just touched on some of it. Can you go into a little bit more detail on that?
Yeah, so since ServiceNow is built on a single architecture, single code base, everything relies on the CMDB, or the configuration management database. So we've pre-built something like 40 different applications that we know our customers want, that span from IT, customer service, HR service delivery, security, so on and so forth. And then the ability to also build low and no code applications across the platform as you want to deliver, quickly deploy new services. And so what you've got is a central intake in the CMDB for everything that you can take action upon, and quickly build out applications that span the enterprise for various personalized needs that might be required based on whatever the requirement might be.
Okay, that's great. And I guess the last question that I currently got is, does ServiceNow integrate with other tools? And if so, give us an idea about that as well.
Sure. Yeah. And so I think I might have touched on this a little bit earlier too. So we have out of the box integrations with many different tools. Things we often see are Oracle, PeopleSoft, different, even Salesforce, or different kind of systems of record in the backend that serve different functions. We've got pre-built spokes for ease of integration that only helps to amplify, the work that can be done within ServiceNow. And then, of course, we have an open API. So really, any system that allows for read-write, we have the ability to integrate with that as well.
Excellent. I'll turn it back over to you, Ryan.
All right. Well, that concludes, I think, the presentation for us today, unless anyone has some parting thoughts or ideas or questions for us.
And I think that's all the questions, but I will tell you, Mark, Calvin, Ryan, it was a great presentation, a lot of good information. And you actually have a few people that signed up in the chat, if you can reach out to them. And we would say thanks a lot for coming in today. We appreciate all of the information, and we hope to see you guys come back. Is there anything else that you'd like to say, Ryan or Calvin or Mark, before we head out?
I just want to thank everybody here on the line for joining us this afternoon, for spending some time with us here. Hopefully this was valuable for you all to see a little glimpse into ServiceNow and how we're helping to support other tribal nations with some of their initiatives. And thank you to you, Chuck, and to Tribal Wise for setting this up for us so that we had the ability to present today.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Calvin. And thank you, Mark. We certainly hope that you'll come back and join us again in the future. Just a reminder to everybody, we're just really kicking off June. We've got several more webinars scheduled, June 22nd, June 29th, standardizing tribal grant management, and then how tribal casino resorts upgrade guest and employee food service experiences. And then July 13th, navigating the Microsoft Cloud journey. So please join us for any of those. If you can't join us, go out to tribalwise.com and you can take a peek at the recorded webinar after those dates. Again, this is Chuck Scharnagel with TribalWise. Thanks so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you back on June 22nd. And thanks again to everybody from ServiceNow.
Thank you.